prevent overcharging from physicians. So, you know, again, little things right there. And again, with all the healthcare reforms, like I said, where it's like, how do you deal with? In fact, actually, believe it or not, England was actually a lot of this public health stuff is something England started with probably about in 2005. They started making paramedic practitioners, and they actually rotate these guys between the ER and like in emergent care and in the field. And they're doing what we're actually eventually going to be building. They're talking to the primary, you know, setting up things with primary care, and they're trying to just eliminate visits into the ER. You know, I mean, and a lot of people use the ER, you know, for their primary care. Either one, because it's when it's indigent population, or two, they're impatient. You know, it's like, well, I don't want to wait. I mean, I've been many times. Yeah, I've been feeling well all this week. Have you called your doc? Yeah, I'm having an appointment later today. Okay. You know, but they want to go right now. So, I mean, it's unfortunately they're trying to put a big halt to, you know, crashing, you know, draining the ER, because, I mean, that's just a lot of lost money. So, again, the emergency roles, we've kind of talked about this quite a bit. Public health, obviously emergency care is a big one. Primary care, research, and the community role model. The nice thing, at least, you know, when I was in EMS, we weren't really much of role models. They didn't really care about, I mean, we were just kind of you guys are just kind of there.
Are they role models now?
Huh?
I mean, is it still just police and fire?
Depends on the community. Now, if you go like to Austin, for example, EMS and fire compete for the highest approval rating in the city.
How's that working out?
How does it work out?
I mean, what's the...
It fluctuates. They go back and forth. So, I mean, it really depends on the system and how much they want to be and how they want to present themselves and how involved they're going to be. You know, for something like the municipalities, obviously they really want to sit there and say, hey, you know, these are, you know, public servants, because that's tax money.
I think still overall the perception is that EMS is still very different from fire, because the fire police and EMS.
It's kind of weird, because yes and no, because a lot of people get the perception of either one, we're driving ambulances, which is it, or we're part of the fire department.
Ambulance drivers.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't, and the thing is, I mean, EMS as a whole, we are terrible at marketing ourselves compared to like the fire department, who are phenomenal at marketing themselves. I mean, come on, you guys, you know, call for medical emergency. Huh? Like I say, you call for medical emergency, they come in, the ambulance comes in, you know, they take your loved one away, they sit there and say, hey, can we check your smoke detectors? Let's replace the battery for you. They do a lot of stuff like that. You know, Fire Prevention Week really is Fire Prevention Month is what they're doing, but they know how to really work themselves. We don't. We don't do that at all. Cops, on the other hand, they've always kind of had that bit of a negative image because, well, look what they deal with, you know. Everybody's always innocent and the cops are just harassing people all the time, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's just what cops want to do, you know, at least, yeah. So, like I said, for, you know, the community role model, I mean, that's something that's, you know, emerging, you know, especially in our customer service world. You know, we have to sit there and present ourselves as, you know, again, public servants, and we're here to help, and everything under the sun with that, too. So, why a role in public health? Well, like I said, obviously we deal with a lot of what public health deals with. And public health actually is a very, very, very large world, and we're a little small dot in the middle of it. But I mean, obviously, you know, we started looking at community relationships established. You know, obviously we want to start working with the health departments, especially if we have to worry about any kind of epidemic. I mean, epidemics come. You guys, difference between epidemic and pandemic is? Ever talked to you about that?
What
Is
they are?
one just limited to a certain area?
Yeah, I
Pandemics
think it's-
are like
It's
a
just the scale of
community?
it, right?
Pandemic.
Yeah.
Or do I have it backwards?
No, epidemic is usually restricted to a locale. Pandemic is all over. You know. So yeah, I mean, like, you know, SARS, swine flu. Obviously, we're going to interact with that. Knowledge of illness and causation. By the way, you know how to treat swine flu?
Flu shot?
Yeah, just like any other flu. I mean,
Did I give you the right one?
that's another interesting story. So, taking this guy out of Fort Hood, out of Darnell, right? Guy's about my age, healthy guy, soldier, this, that, and the other. He took one of the nasal flu vax, which is actually a live virus. He was in,
Give himself a food.
yeah, he gave himself the flu. He was in he was in ARDS. He was starting to go, he was actually, oh God, I can't think of the name. It's a pulmonary degeneration. Yeah, no, yeah, ARDS. So, yeah, it actually, just was killing him. Thought that was kind of ironic versus people who were actually getting the dead vaccine. So, yeah, acute respiratory distress syndrome. But yeah, actually, ARDS is where actually the tissues really is breaking down and all kinds of mess. Like I said, you usually see it in, it's MODS. Multi-organ,
Degeneration syndrome?
yeah, is it degeneration or multi-organ? Yeah, degenerative syndrome, which is basically 2 or more organ systems failing. So anyway, system responsibility to the community. Obviously, like I said, dealing with the pandemics, the indigent community, and so forth. And again, change of mindset, purpose and preparation to the future. Like I said, eventually we're going to be seeing that that community paramedic or paramedic practitioner coming out, and it's just kind of like, how do you, the question that they're running into is, how do you develop, what's the scope of this paramedic going to be? What's it really, people have got ideas, everybody has ideas, but problem is it's kind of like very area specific because of just different needs versus kind of like how, paramedics evolved. Everybody kind of built it to what they needed versus like, okay, wait a minute, we're going to try.
Well, doesn't it just turn into like another emergent care or urgent care thing, just a different level of provider?
We've got nurse practitioners that can give scripts, they're limited kind of to that, you know what I mean? So I can do something like that. where-
Mobile urgent care, or, just like
That's-
clinic, but mobile.
Yes, and I think a lot of it's actually going to go towards what England's doing. And like I said, these guys they're out in the field. I mean, they're giving scripts. They're working with a primary care doctor. Keep in mind, this is a purely socialist system, so they got it's easier to interact with everybody versus like you have private companies and, you have the public and so forth and government agencies. I mean, it's all there connected. The thing with these guys, like I said, they're one out in the field, like I said, they're doing a lot of the primary care kind of follow-ups or, just answering calls to the old bumps and bruises or sniffles or whatever the case. But they also rotate them in the ER, so they're under physician supervision, so they get more kind of like follow-up exposure and training there. Make sure that they're kind of on task, and then they put them out in an emergent care box. I'm not saying emergent care, but the doc in the box, and let them sit there and they found out just by rotating between those 3 environments, they like reduce their burnout issues to 0. Compare what you'll see with a lot of paramedics. I mean, paramedics burn out about 5 to 7 years. So, but I think that's kind of what will ultimately come about. I just don't think anybody's really it's just hard to make another practitioner level. I mean, how do you fit it in? Because, if you start making another mid-level practitioner, well, what are the, PAs and the NPs going to think? Well, the NPs are actually going to have their own issue coming up here in the next couple of years. I don't know if you guys know about that. They're making it a doctorate program. A lot of the MDs are pissed because now,
Devalues their education.
well, they're going to
A
be,
bit.
yeah. Well, the thing is, the idea is, yeah,
Is it
they're,
MDs, really?
huh?
MDs, intermediate doctor program? Is that what you said?
No, the nurse
That's
practitioners.
what I'm saying, MDs.
Yeah, yeah. They want to make it a PhD program. Well, PhD and an MDs are 2 different animals. And if you look at the actual nurse practitioner scope of practice, a lot of those nurse practitioners, they go through, their old basic nurse practitioner program, then they specialize immediately. Okay, and it doesn't take. If you actually go online, look, it doesn't. It's only like a 2.5-year program, 2-year program, and they can do this online. So you can see how the MDs are really pissed off about this. It's like you do this program online, then you just go show up to some place, do clinicals, and then you're done. And then you're going to make it a doctorate program. So when you're in the ER or wherever you are, they're going to refer to you as doctor. Look at how much misery those.
I went through 8 years of medical school and 4 years of intern for
Yeah.
you to turn around and have the same title that I do.
Right. Right. So, and like I said, you make another mid-level practitioner. Well, what are the PAs going to think? What does their community think about all this? A lot of paramedics end up going to PA school. They may not even care.
That nurse practitioner that's gone to more school and kind of got that doctor.
Mhm.
Isn't that kind of what a PA is anyways? Next level up from an NP.
No, they're equal. Actually,
Oh,
they're
really?
yeah. The difference is,
Their practitioner requires an RN, doesn't it?
yes.
And then you have to have a bachelor's to get a PA.
Well, PA is what actually I'm looking to do. And like I said, it's got to have a bachelor. I mean, you can have a bachelor, and I've seen the student profiles. I mean, like in anthropology or, underwater basket weaving with, a specialization in willow tree bark. I mean, you really can't. As long as you have that in the science credits. I mean, some of the profiles I saw were people like, yeah, I was a patient tech, or I was a patient registration for a year, and they'll hop on in. A lot of NPs and PA programs were actually built from military models. The NPs were because we have all these field nurses. Well, the military says, well, we can't always flood people with doctors, and we don't always need people with doctors. Well, let's make a mid-level practitioner so we can branch out more and cover more territory. Same thing happened with PAs. It's kind of like, well, we've got all these Army medics and Navy corpsmen with a lot of experience. Because, I mean, these guys out in the field, I mean, they're actually running like 4-bed hospitals or giving antibiotics. Like, well, let's give them a little bit more. Therefore, they got more of a scope. We can branch out even more. That's where a lot of that comes from. So, but yeah, the NPs, like I said, it's the RN track. You go to an NP, or you actually can go to PA if you want to. But the PA school is actually more built off the medical school model. And just depending on the doctor or whoever it is, I mean, I don't know if there's much of a clash between the two or if they even care. I mean, I said I guess like an MP can have can carry their own DEA license, except in Texas, which I thought was kind of interesting. They won't allow in Texas. But a PA can't carry a DEA license. He follows under the physician. It's going to be a political mess. So anyway, to get back to where all this is going towards, creating do we create another mid-level practitioner, or do we create something that's between a paramedic and a mid-level, kind of like a sub-mid-level practitioner? Because like I said, if we start going up higher, we got to have more education. I mean, like I said, you're looking at those MPs and PAs are all graduate degree programs. How many paramedics actually just have associate's degrees? Versus just their certification. How many of them actually have bachelor's degree? I mean, how do you fix that problem? So it's like I think that's where it's going to get hard. I mean, eventually it's going to evolve into something, but it's just kind of into what? What's that whole general encompassment going to be like, as you see with a paramedic program, versus we do it this way. Well, how do we encompass it all in one curriculum and send it out to the world? So, I actually got something on here. Any guys on D2L right now? Go down, open up on policies and syllabus and policies under content, and if you go down further, you'll see I put it prevention. It's right below EMT skills.
Injury prevention?
Yeah, injury prevention. Click on that. It actually gives a lot of good definitions for primary injury prevention, secondary, and actually gave a really good explanation of the Haddon matrix, which we're going to talk about now. But primary injury prevention is pretty much we can make this stop. We can make this stop. For example, I mean, we're going to be a little theoretical here, but let's say we want to make needle stick injuries stop for good. How do we do that? Get rid of the needles. We got to get rid of the needles. Really, that's what it is. Okay. Well, secondary is we know it's going to happen. How do we really slow it down? That's where we start seeing the retractable needles for the IV catheters and so forth. So what's an unintentional injury? The accident. Yeah, it's an accident. Injury risk. I mean, we're always at an injury risk wherever we go. Picking up somebody drops a needle or puts it on the bench, doesn't tell you about it. I mean, it could be a lot of things.
Puts it in your belt bag and just zips it up back up. I thought of you when I opened the bag.
That's one of my pet peeves.
What is that?
Needles. I will blow a frickin' don't wear gloves and leave out a dirty needle, and you will watch me turn about several shades of red and start kicking things. I mean, I will lose my frickin' mind. Just a little side note when you guys are in the lab, because if you ever see that happen, because I know everybody does at one point, kind of forgets about it, and you'll hear me screaming over. Oh, that'll be at the end, but there'll be a little bit more coming before that. So, what's injury surveillance?
That like scoping out
Just
Yeah.
potential areas.
Like we're getting needle sticks. Okay, why are we getting needle sticks? Okay, we know it's a large percentage of needle sticks. Okay, when is it happening? How is it happening? You know, that's where a lot of the injury surveillance is. You know, back injuries is a real big issue with EMS. Well, how often is it going on? How can we prevent it? You know, thank God we've got hydraulic stretchers coming out now. Good times. So, epidemiology. Studies of factors that influence occurrences of injuries, illness, and health-related events. This is a whole world in itself. If you guys want to go into epidemiology, I hear med students even dread this. But again, like I said, you're just watching. You know, you're studying epidemics. Is all you're doing. You know, we're having an epidemic of syphilis in Austin, or I mean, I don't know. I remember what time we had an epidemic of plague up in Colorado from prairie dogs. Prairie dogs were carrying it, and they'd bite people. So at least they start tracking that, huh? Yeah, that's usually what happens. I don't understand who's like, oh, let's go pet the prairie dog. And usually most people in Colorado are like, so. But again, we're looking at population disturbances like TB. TB would be a good one. TB is they're always looking at, you know, what's fluctuating with TB. You know, what general populations, you know, TB seems to affect? You guys know?
Homeless?
Homeless is
Or
one.
group home, people that live in like group homes?
Group homes is two.
Dorms, or
Not just dorms, but
Schools.
yeah, it's usually
community.
low socioeconomical is usually the big thing. Prisons are a big one. You know, like saying some of those group homes are a big one. People coming in from foreign countries because they're not watching it. You got to be careful of that. Also, be careful of that when you go over there too. So, and the extent of disease and relationships to others. Accidents do not just happen. Yeah, most of the time, it's, you know, as we, you know, you could say it's user error. But you just can be careful. Okay. Okay. To have the disease, you got to have these things in common here. First of all, you got to have, actually, believe it or not, there's actually kind of more of like 5, but this is kind of the really, really chopped down version. You got to have somebody who's carrying it, or, you know, whoever the host is, because usually the disease is like trying to ride off somebody else. It's got to have weight to leave. It's got to have an exit. Then they say what's in the middle there is you got to have a vector. It's got to be able to travel. Like TV goes through the air. So that's how, you know, it gets on, you know, air, and that's how you can inhale it and so forth. And then it has to have a portal of entry. And then it has to go in an entry to an environment that it can grow again. That's a real, you get the 5-step approach of disease transmission. And a lot of times with disease transmission or epidemiology, they're saying, well, how can we break this apart? We start breaking one, the rest of the chain breaks apart. So if we can break it up in a couple places, the disease will start backing away and be contained.
What was the agent like? What would be
The disease.
Well,
Well, the agent is like the bug.
Like fire spectrum.
Yeah, like it's like meningococcal virus, meningitis. Okay, that's the agent that come in, you know, or it's the bacteria. I think it's a staph. I don't know if it's a.
Well, how's it different than disease?
Huh?
Remember the staff?
Yeah, staphylococcal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How's that different than disease?
you need all that to have the disease.
Okay.
Okay, the disease is not going to occur unless all these things are in play. You got to have the place. You got to have the agent. You got to have the environment. Okay, so I mean, you could be a host, but if you're not the right environment for it, thing dies. The agent, you know, the agent needs a host. These things.
An agent floating out in air is harmless until it gets in the host or in our.
HIV. HIV, for example.
HIV's a good one.
Okay, that's the agent, is the virus, okay? It's sitting in a host, okay? But you can sit in the host, for example, you put HIV and you sit it here and it dries up, it's dead. It's useless, it's gone. Versus hepatitis, it'll actually last, hepatitis can last up to a good 3 days, you know, dried, but HIV. So anyway, there's the virus, okay? Virus comes in and finds a host. What does HIV do?
That's the immune system.
How? You guys know how?
Then like
Suppresses the immune system.
Huh?
Suppresses the immune system.
Doesn't the body
T-cells,
attack itself?
T-cells.
It doesn't
Yeah.
attack, yeah, it doesn't make,
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Your helper T cells. It's actually because you have like your macrophages and all this stuff kind of floating around. When it attacks something, it drops all these things called basically its own little form of pheromones, but it's called chemostaxis, which called the helper Ts and all. It gets the cascade complement going. Well, the helper T's are pretty much are the ones who sit there and call the cavalry. Well, guess what? We take that person out. We have a very, very minimal, very just kind of that first line defense that's going in there. It's not going to last long. It needs all the rest of it to come in, because like I said, this is going to call the for all the cells to make antibodies and the other macrophages and stuff to wipe this thing out, get the histamine system going. Anyway, like I said, this gets rid of, that cleaves pretty much that second layer in the complement system. Guess what? There's there's pretty much no next to nothing, if no immune response. So it needs to be in blood. It needs the, its environment is blood. It needs the T cells. So, like I said, obviously it needs to get exit. It needs an entrance. How do we break it up? Like I said, does AIDS actually kill you?
It's something else.
No, it's like the flu or the pneumonia.
Yeah, it's all.
How do-
Yeah, the term is actually called opportunist infections. You guys know how AIDS was discovered? Actually, it was by a dermatologist in the 80s. A lot of these kids were coming in, in their early 20s with these lesions. And the dermatologist was like, wait a minute, these lesions you don't usually get till you're like 90 years old. Because your body can kick them off all the time. Kaposi sarcoma. That led to further and further, and they found out it's like, oh, you're having all these nausea, vomiting issues, real bad sickness, That's how AIDS got discovered. So injury prevention control, primary focus has tended to be on the potential victim behavior. That's one way to do it. If we can alter the behavior, y'all be careful now. So this doesn't always work. I mean, here's actually kind of a good one. So, in Austin, we used to sit there and have to plug the trucks in, right? We don't plug trucks in, so we don't kill, if we, put in the shoreline, then of course when we go on a call, we have to unplug it. If not, we rip that thing out and we could have, these little live wires sitting out. And of course, they're pissed off because then we've got, broken cord and all that other business, right? Of course, it's there and say, well, we're trying to altering our behavior by plugging in, wrap it around the mirror so we will get it out of our way. So they kind of played with that. And actually, if somebody came out and said, well, let's get a PVC pipe, let's put it there, put a big stick so you can't even open the door. So we didn't have to take out points, don't even alter the behavior. We just changed the mechanism. And now we don't have to worry about the cord dripping and, exposure electricity and all that other business going on. So sometimes it's just behavior is one thing. Sometimes altering the system that is set up. You don't have to worry about altering the behavior. Actually, you guys online looking at the explanation of the Haddon matrix actually has a really, really good explanation on this. Because first, that I think the first one is, what's the problem?
In the book or in the...
On what I gave you online.
Yeah, what's the problem?
Yeah, what's the problem? So that's the first thing. What is the problem? Okay, let's say it's needle sticks. Everybody's sticking each other with needles for whatever reason. Okay, so what's the next question it asks?
What is the cause?
Okay, what's the cause? What's the cause of this problem? Exposed needles, for one.
Lazy people.
Huh?
Lazy people.
Could be. It could be a behavioral issue. Well, what else could it be? I mean, maybe we're using, how many people have seen the catheters that have the, 2.5 inch long, do we really need those? Maybe something that's just 1 inch. Are these retractable? I mean, obviously they're not retractable. Maybe that's a problem. I mean, that's what's the next one?
What interventions might work to prevent or control the problem?
Yeah, we can have a retractable. What other interventions could we do to start preventing deal with needle sticks? Somebody said it earlier.
Needleless system.
Needleless system. Okay, you just do the IV catheter. After that, if we're going to do any drugs, it's going to be through a needleless route, so nobody gets stuck. Okay. What's the fourth one?
How do you best implement the proposed solution?
How can we do this?
Get shorter needles.
Yeah, get shorter. Yeah, take
Change
the long needles out. Put the 1 inch catheters in there. After that, we're going to start putting syringe and put the needleless system in place. So I forget what we used to call those. Huh? No, the hubs, the needless hub. You put them on the syringe
The blunt syringes.
There's blunts. The blunts.
Or the blunt needle?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because I can't believe I escaped that. If you ever run Joe Granberry, you know, for some reason, he never understood why people started giggling and say, yeah, make sure you use your blunts. He's like, I understand why everybody's so funny about that. It's like, yeah, you're using your blunts. So he started using the blunts. Okay, so what's the next one?
Did it work?
Did it work? So obviously we got to sit there and look at, did needle stick, did all the needle sticks drop or not? Problem solved, right? This is just another way of looking at it. Again, obviously, here they're talking about motor vehicles, human, vehicle, and equipment, physical, socioeconomical, pre-crash, crash, post-crash, and losses. So pre-crash, obviously the human issue we got to look at here is, drunk driving, drug use, visual defects, influence of individual psychology on crash likelihood. I don't know. Are you just one of those people that kind of panic when somebody cuts you off or something? I mean, that's
Road rage.
yeah. Actually, maybe that's what it is.
Emotions.
Paranoid.
Road rage. So, okay, is there issues with the vehicle? Handling lights, tires. You can go forever on that one. Physical environment. What's the problem with that? You guys know what the problem is with road slipperiness in this area is? When it rains?
No oil
Yeah,
and grease on the roads.
yeah.
Washed off.
It's usually the light rains though that do it, not the.
Well, yeah,
floods, because
it's
it washes
the
all
heat
oil.
brings the oil up, and then you put the water. How well those two go together, and then it's like, phew. Like where I was from. Obviously ice. What are we going to do about ice? So
Move some more water.
that's why I'm here. Socioeconomical environment. Obviously, you can do speed limits, driver license, vehicle. Some places will make you go through. Obviously EVOC. EVOC's a good time if you ever go through that. But the other one, they may put you go through driver's ed along with it, and again, that kind of helps. Obviously, they're just trying to reduce liability on that part. Actually, they bumped up the speed limit on the interstate.
Yeah, 75.
Yeah.
So now everybody goes 90.
It's all through
I
Round
was gonna say, how you-
Huh?
I think it's where it's
All
three
through
lanes too.
Roanoke and
Yeah.
Austin, and
That was
I
kind
was
of
surprised it went that
Makes the
far.
trip a little shorter.
yeah, a little bit. So, how about the crash factors? Obviously, humans, susceptibility to bodily harm, movement and crash accelerations, the vehicle. Do you see how it's just kind of breaking this down? It's like, okay, well, what's the problem? How can we do this? How can we implement this? Okay, and this one is just breaking it up. It's just taking it more factors along with it. That's all this is kind of doing on the top. You guys kind of cool with that? Okay. I really like the one in the one I put in that of that PDF. It really seemed to be a little bit more clear to me on explaining, how does a Haddon matrix work. So, the other one here is called the EP5 matrix. They call it education, engineering, enforcement, environment, EMS, policy, problem, program, partnership, preparation, and policy. So let's say we have a problem with ankle injuries. How are we going to educate our staff about ankle injuries?
Proper lifting techniques, stuff like that.
Okay.
Don't jump out of your truck, step down.
Walk, don't run. Okay. What about engineering? That's a real easy fix when you think about it. What kind of engineering method could we do to help with ankle injuries?
Braces and stuff? Ankle braces or like.
Keep going.
Wear high heel
Boots.
Wear high heel boots. Or
Yeah.
high heels.
Ankle supporting boots.
That's
You know what I'm talking about. Ankle high
Okay.
heel.
Enforcement.
Policies,
Policy,
procedures, the discipline. that
Yep.
people know.
That's now part of your uniform. Okay. Environment.
More like anti-slip stuff.
Yeah.
Net, fluoride.
what kind to use to put that.
Yeah. Steel toe, steel shank. You want to put that in there. EMS. It's kind of I'm not sure how to throw that one in there, but we could say more of a culture change. Okay. Problem. Obviously, like I said, the ankle injuries program. What can we do for program?
You can provide incentives for
Yeah.
the employees or whoever else to purchase those types of boots.
Austin gave us another $75 when they changed the boot policy. You know, and they didn't want us wearing, speaking of which, wearing black shoes. They want us to wear boots. So one day we just, you know, had another $75 show up in our checks. They go buy boots. So partnership, obviously we want to get everybody on board, working together. We don't want it to make an authoritative issue. Preparation, or it can be like, you know, actually
Representation of what you're gonna do.
Well, you can find different companies to either offer discounts or, so the employees have a choice of what to buy and what they want, maybe different styles.
Yeah.
Because if they're ankle high, I mean, you're gonna be limited, but if you're making it a policy, and you don't wanna be all authoritative and you have to buy this kind,
Right.
at least have the options available for them.
No. And policy is pretty self-explanatory. You know, we just put in the policy, hey, from this point, you know, effective this date, you guys have to wear a boot that meets the standard. And it just gets left from there. So basic, 10 basic strategies. 1, prevent creation of the hazard. You know, for example, prohibit manufacturing of weapons. Like, why would we want to do that? And prevent a meltdown, maybe? You know, space-based weapon platforms, motorcycles, hang gliders, and take away all the fun stuff. Well, why don't we just get rid of drugs and alcohol, too?
No, don't do that.
Yeah, prevention of creation of the hazard. I think if a lot of us could get to that point, we would probably solve a lot more problems, you know, in a management perspective. Or reduce the amount of hazards produced. Again, here we're talking about the lower speed limits, and it's kind of like, this is like this would be like secondary, secondary prevention. Prevent the hazard to be released into the environment. You know, legally prohibit the use of firearms and other weapons. I wonder if the person who wrote this knew this was Texas. So anyway, or modify rate of spatial distribution of hazard release. You know, motor vehicle brakes, etc. Separate hazard in space-time form that which can be protected. Stoplights, requiring pesticides to be sprayed at specific intervals of harvesting, so forth. Separate hazards from potential victim and physical barrier. You know, machinery safeguards, motorcycle helmets. We don't need
Caution
motors.
signs.
Caution.
Heat radiation gloves.
Modify the basic nature of potential vehicle of energy transfer. Round furniture corners. Pad nursing home walls and floors.
The round furniture corners would be with kids.
The crash-worthy thing is very appropriate because a lot of cars now are designed to break down when they get hit versus like you get something like a good, like, you know, 65 Impala that's like, I mean, you're really driving a tank. That thing is not going to break, you know, versus like my little Saturn, as soon as it hits something, it's going to go, but my compartment will be fine, but the rest of it's toast. I do miss, actually. I used to have a friend of mine who used to have one of those Impalas. They were fun. Increase, huh?
My father-in-law has one. They're huge and heavy.
Yeah, big, heavy, and fast. So, increased resistance of that which is to be protected to adverse consequences of interacting with the hazards. Hormone replacement, calcium pervasement, so forth. Detect and evaluate damage that is occurring and counteract its continuation or extension. Obviously, here, rapid access, 911, CPR trained general public, pre-hospital ALS. Restore maximum functional potential to that which has been damaged. Psych rehab. So, any questions on that? Anyway, program effectiveness. Passive measures are better than active ones. Sometimes just like I said, setting up the environment to work itself instead of just trying to hound everybody. If active measures unavoidable requiring action once is better than repeatedly, like, you know, policy implementation. You know, this effect immediately, you know, y'all wear boots, that's it, or you get written up. Simple actions are better than complex ones, and cost should be minimized. So anyway, community public health based largely on specific community needs. Again, we kind of talked a bit about that. Target specific public health issues. Not to be a quick fix. You understand a lot of this, especially with public health issues, when we start talking about a mass populace, it's not going to be a quick fix. I mean, it's you guys are familiar with bureaucracy. It's a slow mover. And same thing with this too. The more people involved, the slower it's going to take to really get to see the effects down you know. List 8 specific public health issues that could be addressed by EMS providers in their community.
Places to get health care,
Okay.
places to get shelter, to get food.
Okay. It's 2.
Maybe getting people medications they need for their conditions that maybe can afford it, or
Vaccinations and stuff.
education them on why they should be compliant with their medications.
Yeah, that's work too.
You're doing vaccinations, so not doing, if that's.
How many people get a flu shot? I
Because
don't.
I had to.
Yeah, I'm terrible about it. Huh?
To be
I never
here.
had before this, but they require us to.
Yeah. No, I'll admit I'm terrible about it. Okay, what else? Okay, that's good enough.
We're like educating like kids on wearing helmets and stuff when riding bikes, kind of following.
Yeah,
that.
I think what's hard for us is that we're trying to find a place on what to do, because obviously, I mean, how do you prevent emergencies? You know, I mean, how do you prevent car accidents or cardiac arrest? I mean,
Well, if you didn't
I mean,
have-
luck-
you didn't have a job.
Follow the.
But I think part of the thing is
I want that.
educating them on, I think a lot of times people don't want to call it EMS, so they wait till that heart attack that's been going on now for 4 hours is too late, instead of educating them, you know, we're here, call. They're afraid, a lot of normal people are afraid to call, they don't want to bother you if it's nothing. So
It's a wait and see.
informing them on what to look for and not waiting too long.
yeah,
A lot of
it's
people letting them know that
it-
right for us.
yeah, it's kind of that weird line, because you think about it, because that's also what their primary care physician should be dealing with too, if they have one. You know, versus like, you know, fire prevention. That's pretty blatant. It's like, how do you prevent injury prevention? Okay, well, what kind of injuries? How do we address that? Well,
There's so many different kinds.
yeah, heart problems. Okay, well, what we can go through on a different couple types of heart problems. I mean, that's what I think it's hard for us, is we don't have that definitive focus. Like police, crime prevention. That's their main function. Ours is very,
Why?
I mean, you can do like trauma prevention.
yeah, trauma prevent. You know, but
But-
what kind of trauma prevention? You know, I mean,
Like-
Wear your seatbelt.
yeah,
car seat, you know, proper installing car seats for kids and stuff like
That
that.
goes back to police though, because there's
They're-
laws that say they have to be buckled in a certain.
Well, not even that, but like people that don't know how to put the car seat in for their kids,
Yeah,
they do it improperly.
yeah. It's kind of that thing, because like I said, we're a little bit more broad. I mean, it's like, you know, how do you prevent emergency medicine? I mean, it's kind of like thinking, you know, obviously police, crime, fire department, fire. How do you, what's that key word? Because we don't have that key word. We can just say we're here to prevent this, you know. You know, stomp out morbidity, mortality. I mean, however you want to look at it.
It's almost more like an awareness rather than a prevention.
Yeah.
Make people
Yeah.
aware. And
So keep informed on community health issues. That's usually pretty easy. A lot of times, especially if something is going around, you'll know about it. Promote paramedic education requirements. On-scene education. You're going to be doing lots of that. People do not, like I said, a lot of people do not know who you are, what you're doing, what you're capable of, and they may have a whole slew of medications, and they don't know what to do with that either. Educate other EMS health professionals on paramedics' role in public health. You know, this is one of those, as it emerges, this is how it's going to come out. As it emerges, how it develops. Like I said, we don't have say, this is just what it is. You know, we're still molding the clay, and once the clay's been, you know, we finally put it in the, we actually burn it and it's done. You know, we'll worry about it then. All right, take a break.